What's up GFM, this is Justin from Studio G and welcome to G Academy. And today for Tutorial Tuesday, we will be looking into on how you can make your own custom double-bladed weapon. Let's do this. So before we start anything, let's look at the tools that you need. First, we're gonna be needing a nipper. Secondly, we're gonna be needing your pen and paper or pencil for you to draw out your design. For me, I'm using my iPad. I don't really have any papers around other than for printing, so I'm gonna be using my iPad. Third is gonna be your hobby knife. Fourth, you definitely need some rulers. Fifth is gonna be a scriber. You're gonna be needing that to add details to whatever that you have customized. Sixth, Tamiya extra thin cement or super glue or some kind of adhesive that you prefer. Last but not least, you will be needing a lot of sanding sticks, a lot of sanding foams, and probably a lot of sandpapers as well. For sandpaper, I'll be using 200, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, and last but not least, 3000 grit. For materials, you'll be needing claw plates. For the claw plates that I'm using for this custom weapon would be at 1.2 millimeter thickness. And then you're gonna be needing some runners for the handles and some drinking straws from any kind of yogurt drink. Those miniature drinking straw, as long as it can fit into the runners, and then you will be fine. So step one is definitely to drop your ideas. I drop my ideas and I take inspiration from various movies and TV shows and all the superhero stuff where they have a lot of cool weapons, right? So I use them as inspiration and then I transfer them into my iPad where I draw most of the designs. This is also a very good time for you to really consolidate on your ideas, how you want it to look, what's the size, and then what's the color, and what are the details that you would like to incorporate. It doesn't really matter what kind of design you are at this point, whether it's realistic or not, whether it is too hard to do or too easy to make it. It doesn't really matter as long as you just put it down on paper and pen and you are solid to go. Step two will be to transfer your design outline to the paw plates and then cut them all to sizes. For this custom double-bladed weapon here, I actually have 2 big blades and 4 sides that I need to cut out from the paw plate itself. So it's just a matter of tracing. Either you want to trace or you want to eyeball it, because to be honest, I didn't use exact measurements for this. It's all just based on how I feel and then how I want it to be, like the sizes in terms of the sizes. Step 3 is to cut your runners into length. It doesn't really matter what kind of measurements are you using. For me, I just use my eyeballs for measurements just to pair it up together with other parts to see whether it makes sense or not. Is this handle too big, too small? We all have a gauge on how appropriate the portion and the ratio should be, right? So that is what I'm using for this. And then after I cut it to the correct length, I taper it down on one of the edges to fit between the blades. And that is how I attach the blade to the handle itself. So just start by sanding down all the edges like how you would by a real steelsmith, like a blacksmith guy. What you gotta do is start sanding down all the edges and taper them to the whatever angle that you like. I start by sanding mine at 200 grit and then follow up by 600, 800, 1000, 1200, and last but not least, to finish things off and to smooth things out, I use a 3000 grit. And for your sandpaper, sanding sticks, and sanding blocks or sanding foams itself, it's really recommended that you have something bigger to grab onto. For example, a stick itself or a block or some other forms of handle that you can while handling your sandpapers. Because if you're doing it with the sandpapers itself only, it might not be hard enough for you to get that really sharp edge that you want while you're sanding your paw plates. And another thing that you guys should really pay attention to is to have it at a constant angle and to do it on the edge of the table itself so that your part has something solid to adhere to, and then you can sand at a perfect angle that you want. So after all the sanding, all the mess and everything, clear it all up and start adding in details. For my blade itself, I just added some simple scribe lines using my scriber, scribing tapes and stuff like that. And then after that, it's time to move on to the next steps. But if you are adventurous, you are more creative, you can definitely add on some more accessories. For example, you could even keep bashing some parts into the blade itself, adding more stuff, right? Adding more runners, adding more this, adding more that. It's all up to you, because at the end of the day, it is your custom weapon. So after you did all your scribe lines and all that, then it's time to glue them up using Tamiya extra thin cement or whatever kind of cement that you want. Don't ask me what are the difference between cements. I really don't know. Just try to Google. I'm pretty sure the answer will be out there for you guys. For this custom double-bladed weapon, I really wanted to have the same color scheme as my custom Barbatos Lupus Rex. It's only obvious that I add in the molten lava cycle frame thing that I did. So first coat would be primer, and for primers itself, I'm using Mr. Surfacer 1200 itself, and then followed by the paint of my own brand, G-Paint White, which is only sprayed on the place that it will have yellow, and then after that followed by G-Paint Yellow, and then do some gradient with G-Paint Red. And then after that, mask it all off on the part of the yellow and red part. I mask it all off, and then I start spraying the whole thing with G-Paint Dark Iron. And then after that, I mask it all again. I move on with the G-Paint Experimental Silver that is used on the main blade itself, and then G-Paint Gunmetal that is used on color separations. And that's it. That's the painting part. It sounds like it's hard, but it's actually not really that hard, especially when you're customizing your weapon together with all your parts of your gunplay itself. So it's really not that intimidating. For example, for this, I would use this time to do some custom panel linings to bring out my custom scribe works. And then after that, if you want to add on decals, go ahead. I try adding on decals, but the thing is that it doesn't look good. So I abolished the idea. And the very last step is to protect the paint itself. And for that, I use Mr. Hobby GX series. I think it was GX114 for the semi-gloss top coat. And that's it, just a very thin, light layer, and then the colors are not affected, the surface is not affected. I really like that kind of surface, so it's all done from there. Tip number 1, to get the correct sizing of your weapon so that it's not too big, so that the proportion itself is correct, definitely try to look up some online measurements and then scale it down a little bit, scale it down to the correct ratio, for example 1 to 144, which means that you have to divide every single measurement to 144 times, but that is a bit too hard to do. So what I do is I just take another weapon from another kit and see and gauge on how big it should be. Tip number 2, always prepare a wet cloth beside you on your workstation or hanging around you so that it's easy accessible, especially during the sanding part, because the sanding part is gonna get a little bit overwhelming. Wear a mask if you can, and then definitely clean up every single time after you sand to make sure that you get a really nice sanding surface, a sanding finish, and to get a better judgment entirely. And also to keep your workstation clean. Come on, you're not a slob. Tip number 3 is definitely practice. To be honest, this is not my first custom weapon, but previously I wasn't comfortable enough to do a tutorial on this. Right now that I kind of know what to do and how to do it properly, and then only I start doing this kind of tutorials. So definitely practice. Previously I did a bow and arrow, previously I did custom cannons, and previously I did a Gatling gun as well for the Vidar. So it's definitely a very huge learning curve. Always use whatever you have. Currently I only have plot plates, I only have a couple of runners and all that, so let's try to make something out of it. It's always good to be resourceful and always good to experiment with everything around you. And to be honest, it's really not that hard. Get on with it and never stop building. This is Justin from Studio G, and again, this is G Academy, a tutorial channel by Studio G, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. I forgot, if you like this kind of videos, definitely subscribe to G Academy. I'm trying to grow this channel as well, and like this video if you like it, and definitely don't forget to comment whatever you think or whatever that you think that I should do next. I have a lot more stuff coming for you guys on custom weapons and stuff like that. So let me know, did you like this kind of video? Because I wouldn't know. I'll see you guys next one. Bye bye.